And welcome back to the Pokemon Regional Championships in Bremen. We're back with round 5.
Yeah, motoring along through the day.
Absolutely. Almost just over halfway there now. So this is where it starts to get dicey.
Yep. And these players are, and it's the point in the day where the players and the scores start being like, okay, cool. If you're 4-0 now, you can squeeze out a 5-0. You're real happy because you kind of basically ID range at that point. Like you need one win and you can ID in, or you can just keep winning out if you want to go for the coveted 9-0.
Of course, I mean, who wouldn't try?
Joe Bernard accidentally 9-0'd apparently.
Oh.
He wasn't expecting it.
Oops. That is just how our talented players work though, right?
Yeah, but as we go over to the table, we will see two very well-known players. We already have had one Schulz on stream, but now we have the other Schulz, Philip Schulz, playing the RCS Cinchino list that was basically the limitless bring for the weekend against Jake Walvin, one of the players from the UK. Now, quick story about this RCS Cinchino list is, as far as I can tell, Philip's the only one who's actually happy with it. Everyone else is like, this is a terrible list. And it was Philip's fault that they're playing it, so we'll see how it works now.
So we're seeing the master of Cinchino at work, and Jake is absolutely lovely. They are such a jolly player. They told me earlier they were having lots of fun today, so it's always nice to see jolly players against each other as well.
Yeah, and like for a lot of people, it becomes very stressful, but I love it when players are just like, I can chill and have fun.
Yes,
it's a game.
absolutely.
It should be fun. Jake is likely to have a fun couple of turns. He's Mew. He's got a Genesect. We're going to see some card draw.
Oh, we are. And not only that, they've got a Quick Ball, another Genesect in hand. This could be a brilliant start for Jake. But Philip has started with, of course, their highlight. Our Minccino is down. So let's see if this Cinchino engine kicks off properly for Philip.
Yeah, so Jake playing Mew. His list is actually kind of interesting too, because it's not just your straight up Mew. He obviously has the Meloetta as attackers, but also the inclusion of Deoxys, which we saw a few people who said that they want to play more of. The 80+80 with the Fusion Strike is really nice, because with one power tablet, it's really easy to take a KO.
Yes, you're looking at most low-level Vs, and actually Philip has a lot of single prizes that are valid targets too for that Deoxys, that then if they would like to come back and knock it out back, again, they're only taking one prize card. So it's a nice little trade. Yeah,
as we see the Mew come down for Jake. Has another Genesect in hand, so he's going to get to at least 3.
Yeah, more Quick Ball action. They're considering the Meloetta.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of turns in these matchups, and at this point you start having a suspicion of what decks you're up against. The first few turns here, you're all about getting the boards down for Mew, because as soon as you have the Fusion Pokemon in play, the ability to use Fusion Strike system to just draw a ton of cards is amazing.
Absolutely. Getting as many Fusion Strike Pokemon out as soon as possible, best strategy for me. We need them all on bench so that your hand can stay plentiful.
Yeah, so we'll see quite a few cards drawn already.
Ooh, Tower of Darkness.
And plays one of... I don't know if it was a little joke there from Philip, but drawing 4 cards, and Meloetta coming down. Is that an Ultra Ball I see in hand?
Looks like it, yeah. So we have the potential of quite a strong second. Oh, no, it must not have. No, I think it is actually still. Maybe they're saving it. No, because they've got Mew VMAX in hand as well. Oh.
I mean, there's no need to use it. You can use it later on in the game. You can choose, and no other actions that turn.
No, there's no rush from Jake at this point. They can't attack. They've got a pretty good setup. They've got essentially what they want. They can't use a supporter, so it's a pretty good Mew turn from the start.
Yeah, and just getting up and running like that for Mew is the be-all for turn 1, right? Get yourself going, then you're all fine. As we see now, Philip get his turn underway. We see the RCSVs hit the board, and the Minccino chilling out in the active with his little memory capsule. But not a lot going on that turn. It looks like it was a bit of a dead hand from Philip.
We've seen a lot of people playing the half-art and alt-art Arceus V, but I must say I have a soft spot for the full art. It's really beautiful with the pink sleeves. I've got to say, Philip's got some style points going on here.
Yeah, lots of options of how you want to play the deck in terms of what it looks like, but not everyone opting for this one. But as Jake getting underway, and now this is a turn that if you're a Mew player, Cool, we're going to get the fusion. Like, we can go get the Mew VMAX. We have another Mew VMAX in hand. Are we going to try and take the KO on an RCS and just start saying, right, I'm going to start picking off like the 2 prizes quickly and aggressively, put you on a clock? Or can we just afford this turn to kind of chill out? You know, basically at this point, Jake is really just digging for the escape rope.
Interesting to attach a DTE for the harsh retreat on the Genesect in the end.
Actually just not going into the VMAX this turn, opting just to use Mew to set up a little bit more. Interesting line as Philip now does see an out for some search, gets the quick ball. Can at least try and get something down on the bench. This Minccino's not really doing a lot in the active, so maybe you want to get one on the bench just in case this one does get KO'd.
Yeah, it does have Call for Family. It's not a Pokemon that is upsettingly useless in the active position.
No, but the issue for Philip was there was just no attach turn 1, right? And at this point,
No.
you're so far behind in attachments that you start getting a little worried.
Yeah, but the Arceus is going to take some effort and turns to get energy on as well, as it needs 3, unless they use
the double turbo.
The double turbo.
And Philip now.
They are scratching their head now.
Yeah, deep in thought, and you can see the hand. Like, this is one of the things I like about Philip, watching Philip play, is he's quite an expressive player. Not necessarily in terms of facial expressions, but you can see the gears turning, and you can see him playing the turn out in the air to be like, oh, hang on, how are we getting to this line? As we see a second Minccino come down, and just another pass. Don't know what that last card in hand for Philip is, but it's clearly not doing an awful lot of good for him.
No, both players have been taking their time, though. They've not been rushing through this game.
So, of those 3 cards in hand, nothing particularly interesting for Philip from the looks of it. But Jake, at this point, you can afford this for the first couple of turns, right? You can play the slow game for a few turns.
Yeah.
But at some stage, you do kind of want to put the foot down to go, right, I can use your slow start to build a perfect board, but at some point, we've got to go.
There's our first Chinchino.
Yeah, so make do. Well, will Philip make do with the cards he's drawn, or is he okay? I see that look you're giving me, Amy, of making that joke. So, drawing 2 cards does get the Evo Incense, but with the Path to the Peak already down, and necessary, obviously, with the Path to the Peak stuck in the active, you can't go ahead and use Starbirth, so just passes the turn back over again. Philip doesn't look terribly happy with how this game is going.
No, but, I mean, at least Path to the Peak is down, so Jake's draw power is now limited until they can bump that out of the way somehow.
Yeah, so we see the Elsa's Sparkle. One of the most important parts of this deck, like, obviously the Mew's really good, but just the ability to get those 2 energy down real quick.
The acceleration is just fantastic, and that's the nice thing about Mew, is that I don't think a lot of people see it as a combo deck. But realistically, it has lots of lovely little combos going on internally. You've got so many little ones that just are really satisfying to pull off in the moment.
Yeah, so we see the Rotom Foam.
Like the Rotom Phone.
Yeah, like
that's such a good example.
Yeah, the Rotom Foam with the Genesect is normally a really strong combination. Less good when Part of the Peak is in play.
Absolutely.
But this is an option where, like, you can effectively dig for your stadium out. Okay, you can't use it this turn, but it's not the end of the world if you're able to. The card goes to the top of the deck. And I think from what I saw, it was a Fusion Strike energy, so it basically means that you can...
Oh, just spotted that Jake does have...
He does have the counter setting if he wants it. But one of the cool things that Jake's done here is, okay, sure, it hurts that he doesn't have abilities. It almost certainly hurts Philip more.
Yes, definitely. And one of the interesting things is that Jake's got such a strong position here that retreating and passing isn't a bad thing for them. It's almost better for them to force Philip to use resources and then take bigger knockouts later on more important things.
Yeah. And one of the things we see from this is by keeping that in play, right? This RCS V-Star right now is absolutely useless because the part of the pick is stuck. You can't get away with it. You can't use anything in a meaningful way. So this does hurt Philip a lot. And like you said, if they're having to then dig and use other resources, well, they kind of can't afford to because they're running out of options.
Yeah.
Cinchino does draw a couple of cards, though.
Yep, they can use Make Do and they can try and get as many things as they can. Oh, they hit both! Double! And then dragging forward a Genesect.
And passing the turn. Okay, and now we'll see the counter
the
steam.
time.
So I like that a lot. Again, we saw it earlier on. Timing the use of the counter stadium is really useful because what you can do here is guarantee as much value as possible and do it on a turn where you need the out.
Yes.
Because the alternative for Jake last turn was cool. He could draw some cards, but like, what was he gaining from that?
Yeah.
Whereas now Jake can go, right, you think you've got me trapped, but you haven't. And if I can find escape rope this turn,
then we're having a good day because Philip will have no choice but to bring one of those Arceus forward. And Jake's obviously going to have to manage their resources well in this game as well a little bit because they are probably very painfully aware that there is one Tower of Darkness in prizes. So there'll be a little bit of that. And there's the escape rope.
yeah, I mean,
So,
and that's huge.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
the escape rope means that you can take 2 prizes here, stay on schedule effectively.
Yep, and they've still got 2 more attackers set up on bench, even after the Mew VMAX inactive has done its thing.
So there is the quick ball as well, grabs the next Genesect. There'll be 3 Genesect in play at this point with the Meloetta just chilling out as well. And this is what's really scary with Mew, is that once they get to this kind of board state, they're real hard to slow down again.
Yes.
You need to get them early, and once you've got them early, you need to be able to finish the game off before they can get out of it. Because as soon as it's like this, they just draw so many cards and almost always find an out. Like all Jake really needs to do here is find another counter stadium if possible, so that even in the worst case scenario of a part of the peak coming in, you don't care.
No, they're nice and safe, and it looks like they might have hit it too.
Oh, that boss is huge because it takes
quite.
the energy off the board.
Yeah,
and
they've scooped right there.
Philip is getting
Yeah.
on out of there. I can see why at that
Yeah.
point.
It becomes so difficult, like you say, with that Mew. Psychic Leap's even stronger here as well in that position because they've got the Mew on the bench set up and then loads of draw power.
Yeah.
There's no way they're not getting back into it somewhere or another.
And like we've talked about toolbox decks throughout the weekend, right? And we've already seen a fair few, but Mew almost feels a bit like its own toolbox because you have things like Psychic Leap to recover damage off it, like to remove damage counters off, some big attackers, a ton of draw cards. You can play a ton of like specific one-offs. So Mew sort of fits into that role anyway.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about Mew, and it's a consistent deck. People may be worried about it this weekend because of all the dark floating around, but there are still players doing consistently well with it at this event, and that just goes to show quite how versatile it is, and a good Mew player won't be too scared of a challenge.
No, and it's actually a really interesting thing that happened is that I think everyone got so focused on the Inteleon engines in the RCS builds and like ended up teching for that with the Jolteons, people forgot that Mew is a deck. It hasn't been super popular in Europe and hasn't necessarily had the results people would expect for it to have in Europe. But it doesn't mean it's a bad deck by any stretch.
No, not at all. No, it is still a very strong deck, and I imagine even at local level, it's still rampaging through leagues. So it's one of those things where you just can't ignore it. You don't have a choice but to think about the possible Mew VMAX matchup, regardless of its popularity, because of quite how strong it is once it gets going.
Yeah, as we see players finish setting up for game 2. Philip's prize is a little awkward, a whole RCS line in there, and his Melanie. So some of the acceleration gone, but 2
energy and a double turbo.
And oh dear me.
Oh, wow.
Oh dear me, Philip.
And 2 VIP Battle Pass in hand for Jake.
Yeah, this is likely going to end in a donk. Providing Jake can find the Elsa. Basically, that's the only thing he's really missing here. Is if he can get himself an Elsa and take the KO, he'll be all good.
Eevee 70 HP?
Yeah, I think so. So technically the Deoxys could pull it off as well with an Elsa's
Yeah.
plus double turbo. So there's a few different ways to get there, but with the double battle pass, with access to the Chromatic as well, I think that was a Tails.
That looks like it, yep.
Oh no, it must have been a Heads because they picked up the deck.
No, they are going in.
It's hard for us to tell. I really don't like these dice. They use a symbol for a 6. It confuses me. So basically, this will be the switch out. Like this, if you take the switch out here, you can almost guarantee it. Draw your way into the Elsa. Worth double checking that you actually have the Fusion Strike energies, which is exactly what Jake just did. They go, well, hang on, do we have our Fusion Strikes? Because if we don't have them,
change your plan.
Yeah, we have to think of a different thing. Maybe we have to take a turn extra to take this KO.
But just the Eevee is terrifying.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good, but maybe Philip's hungry and wants to go for lunch.
Maybe. It's one of those things that can happen in any game.
Yeah, so this is high pressure for Jake because when you're off of this thing to take a quick 2-0 with a potential donk, you got to nail the sequencing. You got to get the play as close as possible to correct. Even had the Elsa Sparkle in hand. I think one Fusion Strike energy was in hand. So do we have the switch out? Do we have an out to a Meloetta to copy?
It's so easy to have your just be so nervous right now for Philip. I'm on the edge of my seat.
But no, also kind of nervous for Jake, right? Like, you know that you can win this turn, and like when you're presented with those opportunities, like, okay, go, and I'm like, no, chill. Chill. You can slow down. You can afford a second or two.
Yeah.
To think about it.
But putting resources into
there's the
rope.
rope.
There's the rope.
And that's it. A swift 2-0, finishing with the donk there in the second game.
Mew didn't let Jake down that time.
No. And that's one of the best things with that deck is the amount of pressure it's capable of putting out immediately from turn 2.
Yeah.
Right? That turn 1 attack, the fact that you can realistically KO not just small basics like that, but with Meloetta, you have the ability to, in theory, take out KOs. Right? Like, if you can take KOs on big things, turn 2, that's terrifying for the opponent.
Absolutely. And you could do it with multiple Pokemon. You're not left with one option. You're not hunting down one specific Pokemon to take that KO. You've got options, and especially with the Deoxys in there too. That was a potential. So you have the potential of Deoxys, Meloetta, or Mew to take a knockout there.
Well, and it's also like it builds on that because that's assuming even before you get into the power tablets, and then when you have power tablets, everything's in range basically. So most other decks, like the RCS decks, their turn 1 is attach, kind of good pass, right? Turn 2, search some cards, attach, then start getting rolling. And like, okay, they're doing 200, but like, you're likely to be in a position where you can throw something in the way of that first Arceus hit that will survive. Maybe it's a single prize or in worst case scenario. But Mew is able to take 2 prizes basically when it wants.
Absolutely. And the really interesting thing about this format is that most people would argue that going first is best.
Yep.
But I think that moment proves that it's still a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah.
Without the option of going for a supporter, if you are left with one basic, a dead hand, and nothing to do but pass.
Yep.
And no attack that does anything like keep calling or anything like even if you're on turn 2.
Yeah.
Even if you go second and end up with that one, but at least you have the opportunity to play a supporter if you go second.
Well,
or attack to get more things on the bench.
And one of the other things that kind of frustrates me with this format is a lot of people say it's a very slow format. And like most of our games, to be fair, have gone very close to time, and a lot of games are going to close to time in the hall. But Mew puts a clock on everyone, right? The very fact that it can be that aggressive means that it can't be that slow a format, because as soon as you hit a Mew, if Mew is able to go like foot to the floor and take the game over in a turn or two, that's pretty scary.
It's very scary, and that's why you need to just make sure that you keep up, because that is how to deal with Mew, really, is that you just need to keep up.
Yeah.
Because it's so quick, and that poor Eevee breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because it could do absolutely nothing.
No, and so did Tobias win the game before? I missed the end of the round before. I think it ended a tie, right?
Yes, it was a tie, yes.
So we've basically had Mew like 2 games in a row. And in the first round, it was in what is technically an unfavorable matchup, right? Because of the very fact that like the Dark Box stuff is designed very specifically to target Mew.
Yes.
It's an unfavorable matchup. Still squeaks out the tie.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, they were running the Urshifu variant, so part of their deck doesn't work. They're just like, discard it, get it out of the way, I don't want it here. So, in a way, it's a little bit toolboxy, so you kind of think, well, you're not utilizing part of what you're supposed to be.
Sure.
So in that regard, Mew has an advantage, and that's where they did sneak out that win. Rather than it being a full counter deck, it's trying to deal with everything in format rather than making a beeline for, I'm just going to knock out Mew decks, because it's not as popular as it used to be, so it's not possible to do that anymore.
No, and Mew has taken on a bad matchup, got the tie. Taken on, I wouldn't necessarily a favorable matchup necessarily, but like we saw it take a really quick win. I don't think it was a super popular bring. We don't have I haven't seen a metagame breakdown for the weekend yet. Not necessarily a super popular deck, but it's doing well. Like we've seen it toward the top tables a couple of times already.
Absolutely.
So it clearly seems to be a surprisingly good bring. So let's go over now to have a chat with our winner and see what they think of the deck.
Fine. Thank you, Cassis. Yeah, so I am here with our very quick round 5 winner, Jake Walvin. How are you feeling right now?
I mean, good and bad. Like it was a matchup I don't feel too bad in, but I don't love donks as an idea, as a thing. I'll take them. But yeah, I got a donk game 2. Game 1, I actually genuinely am quite proud of the plays I made, because I had a replacement stadium in play. But I just kind of waited a little bit until I had the sort of setup to KO, if he gets an attachment, to KO the Arceus, so that it's really unlikely for him to be able to respond. And that happened. He scooped to game 2, which yeah, and then game 2 was a donk, which I'm going to question myself all day as to whether I played the turn 1 of the donk game correctly, but I got it, so I guess that's fine.
I mean, that's the main thing, right? And it is funny what you mentioned about sort of playing stadium at the right times. It actually came up in an earlier stream game as well about how sometimes you might have the counter stadium, but maybe it's like not the best move to like, sort of play it straight away. So I guess that was like kind of like factoring into your thinking as well.
Yeah, I mean, he had I didn't get it straight away. I got it after a turn or 2, but he couldn't Starbirth himself with Arceus V-Star because of Path. So I didn't want to replace my stadium and give him that until I was sort of ready to be kind of in control of the game, if you will. And so I felt like that was cool. And the energy mix, I was quite proud of. I was like, oh wait, double turbo, retreat energy mix, a double turbo onto Mew. Nice.
Well, I mean, part of the whole skill set with sort of decks, especially like Mew, is that noticing those small things that make the difference to sort of getting yourself to a win, and where it might be a slightly unorthodox line, but if it gets you to the win, then that's the main thing, right?
Yeah, I still don't know if that was like the right play, but part of me was like, you know what, I've not really had a game exactly like that, so I want to see if this play actually works out. So I don't like Metagross with its 5,000 IQ or whatever. I'm not sure that was a 5,000 IQ play, but I like how it went. Except game 2. I'm very sorry, Philip.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Jake, you're literally like a PhD, right? So I think if anyone's going to have 5,000 IQ in the room, yeah, you know it.
In maths.
Yeah, in maths.
Well, of all things, I can count, guys. I can count to a really high number.
We should have had you in the stream earlier when we were trying to work out the Sylveon damage, and we were like, oh wait, how much is that KO? Is it not? Yeah. So you're now up to 401, which is obviously really incredible. So pretty in good contention for making day 2.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about like the rest of your path through to day 2? Is there anything you're worried about? Is there anything you'd like to see? Like, what are you feeling about that?
I mean, I think I've had a weird set of games so far. Playing against a really nice guy round 1, playing Lucario. He just loved Lucario. Fair play. But he was a new player. That game went over quite easily. Round 2 was a really fun matchup against Sylveon, and I think I took it on like one of the last turns of time or something. What was round 3? Oh, I was against Maze.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had a silliest game.
That was your one tie, right?
Yeah, that was my tie. I flipped. Game 1, I flipped 4 heads on Cramomatic and won. Game 2, I flipped 4 tails on Cramomatic and lost. And then it was over.
That math checks out. The more Cramomatic heads usually means more wins.
Yeah. What else? Do I have anything else to say? I played against Entei Charizard. That was interesting. He killed my Genesect turn 1.
Blimey.
Yeah, I was like, you bad man. That's exactly the words I said to him.
You bad man.
Yeah, I went, you bad man.
Well, there you go. Well, obviously, slight personal bias here, but I'm super happy to see you doing so well. Like,
Yeah, but not in a donk, I think.
No, but I mean,
I am, but don't tell him.
but it's like you say, like you're not happy to take it, but you kind of do take it. Yeah.
You do, yeah. It's an unfortunate part of the game, as is pricing. Yeah. I mean, for example, that game I priced 2 Fusion Energy, which could have been bad, which is why with the first cram, I took a Fusion Energy, because I'm like, hold on, I might need this if I don't get a power tablet to KO the Eevee in the active, or for the rest of the game kind of set up. But yeah, it just is what it is.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, listen, best of luck to you next year in the rest of your rounds. I hope we see you in day 2. And sorry, was there something else you want to say?
I just say best of luck in your rounds, but I meant casting the rounds.
Well, it's much appreciated all the same. Thank you very much. And to all you guys at home, we will be taking a short break now, and well, probably a little bit of a longer break, given that it's we ended that round quite quickly. But we will be back with round 6 before long, so don't go anywhere.